Good evening. My name's Simon Jacobs, and this is episode 49, would you believe, of Adventures in Pop. And today, well, it's a brand new year, and I just wondered whether you fancy hearing a brand new track. I've got an album out in just under a couple of weeks, at the end of January, 28th of January. It's going to be called Me and My Big Mouth, and today we are going to have a look at one of the exclusive new tracks that you won't ever have heard that will be on that album. Yeah, thank you. So interesting. I have talked a little bit before about the fact there's a new album called Me and My Big Mouth out at the end of January. It's ever so good. You'll love it. And really, it's primarily for you. It's not really for me because I know all the songs and, I've listened to them hundreds of times. So it's time for you to have a listen. And there are two tracks on there that are unreleased tracks. So 10 of them have been released as singles, two of them haven't. And today I'm going to focus on the track which is going to end up being the final track on the album, track 12 of 12. And it's a song called Complicated. So I'm going to share a little bit about this song, how it came about, and then if you can bear the excitement, I'm going to play it to you in full. I've got a very simple lyrics video ready to go, and then you can judge for yourself whether it should be on the album or not. So stick about. It's not going to be one of my super long videos today because they're sometimes a bit too long, aren't they, really? And so I'm going to keep it quite brief. We're just going to cover the one subject. And then next week we'll pick up the other track as well. They're both interesting tracks. Right, so here's the thing. I do have quite a lot of spare songs kind of sitting around, and so when there's a bunch of songs that as I'm going through the process of writing and selecting songs, there are a few songs where I just think, okay, that's obvious. That is good enough to be on the album, or this one's kind of, on the waiting shelf. And if it's on the waiting shelf, frankly, it's probably not going to be on the album. So you end up though with a kind of really tricky judgment call about the tracks that you quite like. You've been fiddling about with them, playing around with them, making sure that they're as good as they can be. But you're kind of weighing up all the time: do they or don't they go on an album, and do they get released as a single or not? Or what's the criteria? And the answer really is there isn't any criteria other than gut feel, because I have said many times before, and I'm afraid it is still true, I don't really know what makes one of my songs more popular than another one, because there are a couple of reasons why I don't know. One is I think it's incredibly kind of whimsical when it gets out there as to what people get hold of and what they listen to and what they react to. And the other thing is, of course, with my own music, I'm far too close to it. I have zero judgment because I've just spent too much time with all of these songs. They're all my children. I love them all equally, as you well know. So I can't distinguish one from another other than, some of them I suppose are more difficult to play, some of them will be more difficult to record. But, beyond that, I'm quite limited at being able to give an impartial judgment because that got lost years ago. So, why Complicated then as the last track of this album? Okay, well, this goes back to a company in America called Taxi. I don't know how many of you know about Taxi, and it strikes me that maybe I should talk a bit more about Taxi and what they do. It's a very interesting idea, and I think it obviously works really well for some people. It hasn't worked for me yet, but those people who know me will know that I'm not shy of talking about the things I have not succeeded in, and Taxi is one of them. What Taxi do is they act as a kind of middle person, as a go-between between the industry in America, the TV, film, advertising industries in America, and musicians and writers and the like, because films and TV shows and adverts, primarily being made in America, but not always, nearly always need music. They might need a song. They might need just a little sting as it gets into an advert. It might just need a musical interlude. It could be any of those things. So Taxi are this kind of as I say, the go-between. You have to pay a subscription to join Taxi, and then they will tell you what requests they have been receiving from their industry partners who are making these films and TV ads and all the rest of it. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because I joined them about a year and a half ago. It is quite expensive to join, as I say, and I sent them a bunch of songs in response to you don't just send your songs to them. You have to see what the brief is and what it is they're asking for. So I sent a whole bunch of songs in initially. I got rejected for all of them. I think this is one of the things with Taxi. I think much as it might be easy just to say, oh, they don't understand my art. I think the bar is set quite high, and you've got to be sending them stuff that sounds good, that sounds very polished, that sounds very professional, and is well constructed, and is the kind of song they're looking for, and is the right genre, and is the right mood. And I was not getting that right, and I still don't think I am getting it right, because I still haven't had a success there. But what it made me do with looking at the kind of briefs that Taxi was getting, and then passing on to people like me in any part of the world, there are two approaches you could take with this. One is you have a look through all of the songs that you've ever written, and you try and work out, according to the brief they're giving you, do I have a song that fits that criteria? That's one way. But the other thing that probably the more successful people do, and I had to think about this quite long and hard, is they will write something specifically to the brief. So that's a completely different approach, isn't it? So instead of just going through your back catalogue files, the one sitting over here, leafing through and thinking, oh yeah, that will fit quite well, you're actually looking at what they want. They quite often give you some musical references, saying we want something a bit like this, which is really helpful. And then you write something for them. That is not something I've done very often, and I'm not used to doing that. I'm used to being inspired by an idea suddenly, something on the news, something I've seen, something around me, something that's happening with my friends, something very much more personally direct. That's normally where a song will emanate from. On this occasion, Taxi wanted, I think probably in response in some way to the COVID pandemic, they wanted songs about keeping things simple. They wanted songs about keeping everything easy. Something comforting and songs about simplicity. So I sat down, scratched my head, and ended up writing a song called Complicated. And I wasn't being perverse, but the chorus of the song says, don't make it complicated when simple is best. So, yes, okay, so I was going around it, maybe the other way around, but I was spot on in terms of trying to answer the requirement of the brief to talk about in the song, the importance of simplicity and just keeping everything easy and calm and comfortable, etc., etc. So I wrote the song. And one of the things they also said in this brief was that the person who was looking, the company, the individual looking, didn't want any fancy arrangements at all. They just absolutely wanted it acoustic, like piano and voice and nothing else at all. So they were quite allergic to the idea of kind of building up an arrangement. So I did exactly what was asked, piano and voice, sent it off, and I was rejected. Uh, and interestingly, the rejection said words along the line of, "This is a nice song, but it's too depressing." Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Um, so I found that actually rather fun. I mean, I was quite amused by the fact that I'm too depressing, and I do think there is something here about maybe American culture and British culture. That it's not the same. I'm not a Californian. Anyway, so I was too depressing. I was quite proud of that. Um, so I kept the song, and I thought, actually, I quite like the song. Yeah, okay, it's very depressing, but what if I built it up a little bit, because I wasn't allowed to do that for the brief? So we'll give it a bit more arrangement, have a bit of fun with it, keep it as depressing as possible, and on I went. So I finished it off. A more produced version of the same song, complicated, and kind of put it to one side. Then when it came to looking at this album, Me and My Big Mouth, I just thought this is a really nice, gentle song to finish the whole album with. It's definitely it is shouting last track on the album at me. And it's not a big complicated song. It is still quite a simple song. So, for example, in the arrangement, I do very much like that kind of classic building up arrangement. I got this years and years ago from people like Barry Manilow. If you go back, if you do this right now, if you go back and find the original version of Barry Manilow's "Could It Be Magic," which everybody has covered, and it's still a wonderful, fantastic kind of singer-songwriter song. The thing that's so lovely about that, apart from that, it's a great, great track, is the way the arrangement gets built up. It's the classic thing of singer starts with piano, and then at the first chorus there's a little touch of is that strings I hear in the background, and there's somebody touching the cymbal just really quietly, and then the second chorus up it comes, and maybe there's a bass guitar playing there, and there's a bit more orchestration, and the drums are a little bit louder, and on it goes until we've got a choir, an orchestra. It's thunderous, and Barry going at full tilt. So I'm doing on a very small scale. I'm doing a little bit of that. So it's quite a pleasure to not bring the drum track in until about halfway. I think it's about 1 minute 40. You'll notice that I get to on this song before the drums come in, for example. And there's a little bit of brass. There's some strings. Obviously, a little bit of harmonies. So I'm doing that classic build-up thing, which I call classic. Who else does that? I mean, there are so many. Coldplay, even. If you go back to A Rush of Blood to the Head, arguably the best Coldplay album, there are quite a few tracks on there that do that brilliant thing of, you know, it's just this kind of emotional voice with either a bit of guitar, a bit of piano, and then in comes that drum track about halfway through. That's on a few of those tracks, and just classic, predictable, yes, but I think really sometimes really pleasing kind of songwriting and arranging. So I was going for a bit of that. So look, that's it. The song is, I guess there is a bit of COVID watching in the subtext of the song. Nothing too explicit though. It is a song about doing nothing, and that's probably the essence of the song. And then, as I say, we've got this arrangement and starts with the piano, builds up a little bit, and that's it. I would like to play it to you, if you wouldn't mind listening. It's about 3 minutes and maybe a little bit more, and I've just put together this really simple video just to put the lyrics across to you. And the other track that is also a brand new track on this album is a little more complicated than this one. This is the simple one, so I thought I'd talk about this one first, and then next time round we're going to talk about a song called You're Leaving Home, and that, I have to say, was a whole load more complicated. It's a much more difficult song and a difficult arrangement and a difficult subject, and we'll do that next time. So thank you. If you are enjoying this series, then subscribe to it. I would. And I'm just going to carry on doing these. I love talking to you, particularly you. And thank you for watching. As I say, my name's Sam Jacobs. This is episode 49. So I think we have to have a little bit of rah-rah for next time, episode 50. Maybe I'll have a work event. Or no, it won't be a party. It won't. No, forget about that. We'll delete that. We won't have any drinks. And I'll see you next time. So in the meantime, can I leave you with a song called Complicated? It will be the 12th track on the album Me and My Big Mouth. That is out on the 28th of January. Until we chat again next week, here is Complicated. See ya. Bye-bye.
Watching the grass grow, I've got nothing to do. I'm in this slow lane, going slow to consider the view. I decided to quit. The time had come to not put up with it. Don't make it complicated when simple is best. I've spent most of my life avoiding the stress. I breathe in and out quite slowly, but I must confess, it takes a bit longer these days to do a bit less. You may call it a compromise, but in fact it's just a little downsize. Oh, don't make it complicated. Stick to the facts. Keeping on going is so overrated. It's time to relax. Everything's changing at such incredible speed. It's not about what we want these days, it's about what we need. So why don't you quit? There's plenty of room right here where I sit. Oh, don't make it complicated. It's just me and you. Ooh, I really don't care anymore what we do. Oh, as long as it's not complicated, when simple is best. Oh, I've spent most of my life. Oh, I've spent most of